It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Here we are. Ready for episode number 88. And that's what we're going to do right now. Took a couple days off, went back to Washington, D.C., hung out with some of my glorious friends there in Gaithersburg and Germantown, and it was a very nice escape and an all life-altering experience. I'll just say that I've been given a second chance. I've been given a second chance in my life. It wasn't any health issue or anything like that. But I've been given a second chance in my life. And this weekend was profound. Profound. Let me just leave it at that. I want to say hi to everybody who's listening to us on redmaryland.com, redmaryland.com, terrific political blog. Thank you guys very much for posting my podcast. Also, if you haven't had a chance to download from YouTube, or I should say iTunes, it is The Rob Carson Show at iTunes, The Rob Carson Show. Our sponsor is Grass Monsters KC. They sell these terrific mowers, these residential and commercial mowers. Dixie Choppers made in Indiana, Hustler made in Kansas. They are just unbelievable. I had a friend come out and, it's just an acquaintance, but after he rode my Dixie Chopper, Silver Eagle, I think he wants to be my buddy. He had no idea. He's got a zero-turning radius mower, but it is not comfortable like the Dixie Chopper. He says that when he mows his 10 acres, he just beats the snot out of them. And he's going to go buy a Dixie Chopper at Grass Monsters KC, grassmonsterskc.com, 5520 Raytown Road in Raytown, Missouri. I wanted to start today talking about Hollywood in general. I'll say first, this was a big weekend at the box office. It's kind of nice. It's kind of been a slow slog. The last, I think, really big movie to come out, I guess Beauty and the Beast was pretty big. Logan came out. That was the last Wolverine franchise movie with Hugh Jackman. This weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out, crushed it at the box office. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, $145 million at the box office. Number one, Fate of the Furious. That's the latest. Is this the 8th? Is it the 8th Fast and Furious movie? I saw 7, and it was just so stupid. The characters it's become so unrealistic. The movies have become so unrealistic with the action that these people have become essentially gods or superheroes. They were jumping between high-rise buildings, cars falling 30 or 40 feet or 50 feet, nobody getting injured. It's just a little bit much on the. They're cartoonish, the Fate of the Furious, and that's really about it. Beauty and the Beast still hanging in there at number 5. So that's what happened at the box office this weekend. There was an award ceremony this weekend, the MTV music not music, because they don't play music. The MTV TV and Movie Awards, okay? Asia Kate Dillon was the first person, and this woman who's messed up. Sorry, the woman is pretty messed up as far as her sexuality. She's on a show called Billions. Haven't had a chance to see it, and she presented the show's very first gender-neutral acting award. So they got rid of the actor and actress by just calling it actor. that's what they're calling. They're actor now. So they got rid of the sex by just referring it to as an actor anyway. Emma Thompson won it for playing Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. She played a female who was having a relationship with an animal. So maybe this kind of makes sense with the sexual fluidity we are going through. Here's a little bit of Asia Tate Dillon explaining what she's all about. Now, this is a woman, by the way. Right? This is a woman. This person has a vagina. This person, I believe, is it the XY chromosome for the woman, or is it the double X? Anyway, she is actually a woman. Here she is introducing this new gender-neutral actor category.
My name is Asia Kate Dillon. This year has been full of firsts for me. I am the first openly non-binary actor to play a non-binary character on a major television show.
Okay, so she is a non-binary actor playing a non-binary character. So this is typecasting, right? This is type. I don't even know what non-binary is, and I don't think anybody in the audience does either.
And now, it's so cool to be here presenting the first acting award ever that celebrates performance free of any gender distinctions.
Why don't they just call it the Vessel for Acting? How about the Vessel for Performance Award? See, that way you're not an actor or an actress. You're not binary. You're not cis. You're not queer. Whatever. They should call it. You are the You're the vessel of acting.
Tonight, we celebrate portrayals of the human experience because the only distinction we should be making when it comes to awards is between each outstanding performance. I am honored to give this golden popcorn trophy to one of these talented nominees.
Now, remember, this is just the MTV music and no, not music. This is just the MTV Movie and TV Awards. All right, so acting like this is a groundbreaking moment, really, I mean, is it really that big a deal? Anyway, the MTV VH1 and Logo general manager Amy Doyle said she was inspired by the MTV audience uniformly rejecting obsolete labels and embracing fluidity. I don't think the audience really came up with it, but anyway, she says it was really a cultural statement. Again, this is on MTV, so really cultural. Okay, but also said that, and it is reflective about the audience views, and when you look past at the culture as a whole, you had a man against a woman running for president. It just felt like a dated construct for a category. So eventually there's going to be a point where you're going to be shamed for being a man or woman. That's what it's going to be all about. You know, we've got white privilege on campus. I believe there might also be gender privilege on campus. We've got a little of that going on there. So sooner or later, you're going to have to feel bad about being a man or a woman because you have a privilege. I like being a guy. I don't know. You know, some of the things that I do as a guy, I have pretty stereotypical guy stuff. I like my riding lawnmower and all that stuff, but I also like to cook. I like to do the grocery shopping. Does that move me toward another category as far as my gender is concerned? I don't know. Late night television and Hollywood in general has lurched left of left, and angry left. Since Donald Trump took office, the Hollywood is blown up. They are beside themselves. They are bat guano crazy. They are raging at the MTV Music Awards or movie. God, I did it again. Movie and TV Awards. Maxine Waters, representative, was invited out on stage to introduce an award. She got a standing ovation. You know why? Because all she can talk about is obstructing Donald Trump's agenda and getting him impeached, even though he's done nothing impeachable. So they've gone bat guano crazy. Stephen Colbert last week saying of Donald Trump's mouth, it is and pardon the expression, cock holster for Vladimir Putin. That was the most vile, the most sickening thing ever said in the history of late night television about a politician. It is an insult to everybody who's had the privilege of standing in front of an audience with 20 writers and you're making $10 to $25 million a year. It's an insult to Steve Allen, to Johnny Carson, to Jay Leno. It's an insult to the other hosts who are on right now. We're going to get into that. We're going to hear, oddly enough, Newt Gingrich's comments on where Hollywood is going, where comedy is going. Also, Tucker Carlson. I'll share some interesting audio from both of those. I think they did a good job. But a new low was sunk on Friday. And real-time Bill Maher. New York Magazine's Gabrielle Sherman was there. And Maher decided to go down the incest highway with Ivanka and Donald Trump. Here's the audio.
A lot of us thought, oh, Ivanka's going to be our saving grace, when he's about to fucking nuke Finland or something. She's going to walk into the bedroom and, Daddy. Don't do it, Daddy. Is that how you see Ivanka?
Okay, now let's just put it in perspective. Barack Obama has 2 young daughters. What if that joke was said about one of Sasha or Malia? What if just think about it. What about Jenna Bush? Would that have been funny? Would that have been said? I don't. This is a comment out of hate and disrespect, and I wonder how far we are going to go down this road. How far we're going to sink, because it doesn't get any lower than cock holster and incest jokes about a father and daughter. Honestly, I don't know how we go lower. I don't know where we go from here. Here is Newt Gingrich on late night TV.
You're the president, but you're turning into a real pricktator. The only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
Wow. And here was Jimmy Kimmel talking about the terrible news about his newborn son.
By the way, that's Chris Wallace, and it is Fox News Sunday.
In the context of the debate this week over Obamacare repeal and replace.
Billy was born with a heart disease, something called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia.
Now, I paid tribute to Jimmy Kimmel last week for opening up about his son to his audience. I like to say when you do a show, connection is as important as content. And he bared his soul, and I thought it was wonderful. And then he pivoted political.
No parent should ever have to decide if they can afford to save their child's life. It just shouldn't happen. Not here.
We should point out that Billy, the doctors at Cedars-Sinai were able to fix his heart, and he's going to be a healthy little boy. Your thoughts about both of those, Mr. Speaker?
The second one is part of the left's whole mythology. I mean, if you show up at a hospital with a brand new baby and the brand new baby has a heart problem, the doctors at that hospital do everything they can to save the baby. They don't say, we'll take care of the baby right after you write a check. They try to save the baby's life. And that's true across the board in this country. So that is just part of the mythology of the left. The problem you have with humor in America today is that Hollywood is so enraged at Donald Trump.
And that is the truth. And by the way, I worked for a decade with Children's Miracle Network hospitals. All right. I have worked with them. I worked at Children's National Medical Center, KU Pediatrics here. These are Children's Miracle Network hospitals. No child is turned away. No family is turned away because they don't have insurance. It's just not true. So no matter what the malady, no matter what the cost, these hospitals will take care of your kids. And there are many, many hospitals like this. And if your kid needs the treatment, they don't ask for payment up front. They don't send you out, turn you out into the night to take your kid home and die. It's an absolute myth. Here's a little bit more on Newt Gingrich talking about late night TV.
All they've got is pure anger. And that's what's coming out in this stuff. And then they think it must be funny because they're called comedians. So they exhibit their anger as almost a pathology on late night television. And you're supposed to laugh because after all, they're comedians. They ain't funny because they're too angry to be funny.
And that's the way it's gotten. At the GLAAD Awards this weekend, the miserable, wretched, awful Rosie O'Donnell. It says here in the story she's a comedian. I don't recall the last time she said anything funny. And I'm not meaning to be funny here. When was the last time she was funny? When was the last time she did comedy? She is a miserable, wretched person and a politico. She got up on stage at the GLAAD Awards, and of course, because if you're gay, you have to be liberal. You have to be a Donald Trump hater. If you're gay at the GLAAD Media Awards, she got up on stage and pulled out a cell phone and mock texted Trump. F you, and she said the word, from the gays. Then she hit send. Honestly. It's not funny. The night's big honorees included Daily Show host Trevor Noah, who also got an award at the MTV TV and Movie Awards, even though nobody's watching The Daily Show anymore. And actor Deborah Messing, who I don't believe has had a job since Will and Grace. But because she played best friends with a character on a TV show that was gay, who actually was a straight man in real life, she's a champion of gay rights. And they all criticized the Trumps, and, it was your typical leftist fare. O'Donnell's pledged $100,000 to fight anti-LGBT legislation at the event. So whatever that is. And that has to do with what bathroom you can use. That's essentially what it is. Ron Williams was on Fox as well, and Brett Hume talking about late night television, Stephen Colbert, and where it's headed.
Colbert spoke in crude terms. But
by the way, also, and he's going to comment, the FCC is getting involved with what Stephen Colbert did, and I think that's a bad mistake. And it's not. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think the FCC needs to be involved. I don't think that they need to come down on people for the use of a word. All right? Those days are past us, although on terrestrial radio, I don't use profanity. I use light profanity when I do my podcast. But I don't think you can go after someone with the big, strong arm of government for saying a word.
the suggestion that the FCC should get involved here is ridiculous. When should government suddenly be a censor of late night comics?
It's over the air.
It's over the air.
The FCC controls it.
No, you know what? CBS should fire him if they feel that there is a problem. Let CBS act. The government and big government should not be involved.
I think what Colbert said was disgusting.
Right.
And if he had said something like he or any other comic had said something like that with regard to Barack Obama, you can bet that God be on or the woman would be on the unemployment. Just a moment, Jane. Having said that, I don't think he should be fired for having said it. I don't think that the FCC should get involved, and I suspect in the end it won't. What I think should happen is that people should be repelled by it and tune him out.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And I'm not going to watch him. I might comment about what he said, but I'm not going to watch his show. To hell with him. I'm not going to watch somebody who's nakedly political. And I'm not going to watch a show that excludes half of the audience because of their political beliefs. I'm just not going to do it. If I want to watch punditry, then I'll watch the Sunday talks. If I want to be entertained, I want to watch late night television. And if he chooses to go down that path and continue to go leftward and go after the president, then I won't watch. I cut the cord this weekend, by the way, or cut the cable. We cut the cable. And for a variety of reasons, most of them cost, and the fact that you can get a lot of shows on demand with other services. We've got several of them. And, I don't watch the networks anymore, the three major networks anymore. Many people don't. In fact, it's becoming an increasingly smaller audience. And if they want to keep going down this road, their audience will continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Here's Tucker Carlson. He was on Fox and Friends on Friday talking about Colbert and where comedy is going.
Well, I mean, it's not really comedy. It's something else. I mean, look, this is what happens when you start off at the very beginning, even before the election, comparing someone to Hitler. Where do you kind of go from there? Do you know what I mean? How much more radical?
And you'll recall at the White House Correspondents' Dinner 2 weekends ago, the host, who is a little-known contributor to The Daily Show, said, I do not see Steve Bannon. I do not see Steve Bannon. Not see Steve Bannon. And it doesn't get any lower than calling someone a Nazi. Unfounded and wrong. That's like calling someone a child molester as a punchline. It's not funny. It's the hate speech that the left likes to say shouldn't be allowed on campus.
You get no more subtlety. This is more a primal scream. And the distressing thing about it is his numbers have risen as he's become more intensely political and less funny. And I think it shows that the left right now is really just completely out of control. Completely out of control. And
they are literally melting down. There are people in the country, because Donald Trump won, who are mentally ill because of it. They are watching Rachel Maddow, and they are watching late night television for some sort of solace. I was hanging out with some friends in Maryland this weekend. And by the way, I had a glorious time. And the Super Bowl halftime came around. One of my conservative friends was saying that the host of the Super Bowl party said shh when Lady Gaga took the stage, hoping that she would say something anti-Trump, as though she's not getting enough of it everywhere else. She had to hear it from Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl, and it didn't happen. And she was disappointed.
Looking for just the emotional reward of hearing someone express hate rather than tell jokes. What's the effect on comedy, by the way, after a while? I mean, there's not even a pretense.
Is this where you want to go? Is this where you want to go with comedy? That you need to attract haters in any demographic, as long as they hate and as long there's lots of them.
I think Colbert's a talented guy and a funny guy, but this is not showing any of that. It's just, I hate you, basically repeated over and over. Who would want to watch that?
I wouldn't want to watch it, and I'm not going to. And how far is it going to go? And I had mentioned earlier, how far do you go when calling someone a Nazi is a punchline, when saying someone's mouth is a cock holster for Vladimir Putin, and that there is a sexual relationship happening between the president and his daughter? How far is it going to go?
Tucker, let's say 2 years ago, if a conservative comic had said that about President Obama, what would have happened to them?
Well, there would probably be a Justice Department investigation. I mean, that would be hate speech, which the left is always telling us is not protected by the First Amendment. And, there would be, of course, an advertiser boycott, and the person would be on his way out immediately. The problem is when you decide that you can't be unfair to someone, that there's nothing you can say that's out of bounds, that you can't go too far, and the left has decided that about President Trump, then there's really no limit at all on what you say or do. I mean, how long before someone just gets up there and starts threatening violence? I'm not saying Colbert's going to do that, but that's the direction it's moving.
And it's happening. It's already happening. There was a march, the global warming march, or whatever the hell it's called now, the climate change march that happened a week ago. A group of people were saying kill Trump as a march down the street. There was a teacher suspended over the weekend for a Cinco de Mayo party where Trump's face was put on a piñata and the kids were able to beat it up. How far are we willing to go with the hate? You're going to have to settle down. You're just going to have to calm the hell down and realize you lost the election. It's over. Deal with it. Go to the doctor. Have your meds cranked up a little bit. By the way, I have a great T-shirt available at tpublic.com. Just look up Conservatees, T-E-E-S. It's teepublic.com, and then look up Conservatees. And there's one that says, calm down, he won, she lost, get over it. You can order it on T-shirts, on hoodies, on tank tops for the summer, cell phone cases, laptop cases, coffee mugs, stickers, the whole deal. tpublic.com. Look for Conservatees. Sam Cangelosi, brilliant graphic designer. Me, brilliant sloganeer, teamed up to make some really, really, really cool stuff. Maryland-centric stuff, Kansas and Missouri-centric stuff, and then national stuff. Messaging with a wink and a nod. Not mean-spirited. Funny. One more story from Hollywood, then we're going to move on to some political stuff. Ellen DeGeneres says that Donald Trump is not welcome on her show. She says, because I'm not going to change his mind. She said, he's against everything I stand for. We need to look at someone else who looks different than us and believes in something that we don't believe in. Ellen, that's what you're doing by turning away Trump and his voters. She says we need to still accept them and still let them have their rights. Well, apparently your idea of rights for people extends to one end of the political spectrum. She has 65 million Twitter followers, and she put, for me, America is great because of all the people who came here. Well, yeah, most of us have. Not in spite of them. Nobody has ever felt differently about that. We've always been a melting pot. We've always been proud of the fact that we're a melting pot. Just because Donald Trump is doing some extreme vetting from people coming from terrorist states doesn't mean that we're shutting down our borders. By the way, over the White House, they did a screening of Finding Dory. This is one of those movies that I prayed for sleep. The first one was the first Finding Nemo. Brilliant movie, right? Brilliant movie. Finding Dory. Prayed for sleep. All right. All right, let's move on to another big story for the weekend, which is Hillary Clinton. Last week doing an appearance and saying that if the election were held on October the 27th of last year, she would have won the election. Absurd on the face of it, because she's still not recognizing that her message was falling on deaf ears in the flyover country. She still hasn't accepted that her message doesn't resonate because she's out of touch with the hardworking people of the country. That's what it's all about. Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki is a former White House communications director under Barack Obama. She shot holes in Hillary Clinton's argument this weekend, or last week, I should say, that Jim Comey emails and announcements and all the excuses that Hillary Clinton has given, not so true.
In the process, calling herself a member of the resistance.
Well, good for her for trying to channel her loss into something positive. I do think if you look at her comments of what she said about, it would have been guaranteed she would have won on October 27th, we don't really know that. Was sexism a factor? Yes. Was Comey a factor? Was Russia a factor? Absolutely. But I've watched a lot of focus groups. I've looked at a lot of polling over the years, and the perception of her was baked into the cake for about 10 years.
Thank you. Which solidifies the fact that she's a terrible candidate.
I would encourage any Democrat running this year, whether they're a challenger or they're a vulnerable incumbent, to look at the focus groups that Priorities USA did. They did them in Wisconsin and Michigan. And they talked to Obama-Trump voters. And what came out of them, those focus groups, was something very alarming for Democrats, which is the perception that we are fighting for rich people, we're fighting for the 1%. And if we don't change what we're doing, if we don't listen more, we're going to keep losing. And I think that was also a factor in
It wasn't just about socioeconomic stuff. It was also about the Democrats' priorities, what's important. Okay. Now, that means things like being able to use the bathroom of your choice, whether you have a penis or a vagina. The leftist, way out of the mainstream views socially that the Democrats bring to the table. That's part of it, too. Also, let's mention that Hillary Clinton's entire economic platform for the country was bigger government, basically doing what Franklin Delano Roosevelt did to actually postpone the Great Depression, massive public works projects, and increasing the minimum wage. That was it. Infrastructure and minimum wage. Well, guess what, sunshine? I don't build bridges. My wife doesn't build bridges. We don't work on highway crews, okay? And that's just work. It's not jobs. It's just work. When the bridge is complete, then the work is over. That's another part of it. And then, of course, the war on coal, the massive regulations under the Obama administration, the failure of Obamacare. I just heard 60% of small businesses want Obamacare repealed and replaced. Just heard that today. Here's Brett Hume talking about Hillary Clinton and her refusing to acknowledge the obvious that she was just a sucky candidate.
I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me.
This was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election.
That's Jim Comey, by the way.
Hillary Clinton and FBI Director James Comey on the role the FBI investigation of Clinton's private email server played in the 2016 presidential race. And we're back now with the panel. So, Britt, how much responsibility do you think James Comey really bears for Clinton's defeat, especially his announcement that he was reopening the investigation 11 days before the election?
Well, you can argue that flat or argue it round, Chris. I think it had a limited effect. I don't think it was a main factor. But look at it. You can look at it this.
Because the story was out there. The story was out there for a year. All right? The fact that the FBI was not going to prosecute her made no difference whatsoever in the election.
As well. The case he laid out that he said was not the basis for a prosecution could very well have been, as numerous legal authorities have argued about that. So it's possible he could have recommended an indictment, which was obviously would have been devastating.
But he didn't. but he didn't. Here's a little more Brett Hume on the FBI and James Comey's effect on the election.
It's possible he could have recommended an indictment, which was obviously would have been devastating. He didn't do that. A lot of people think he let her off the hook. So you can argue it that way as well. Obviously, this whole...
By the way, after Loretta Lynch met on a tarmac with Bill Clinton and talked about their grandchildren.
Involvement didn't help. This whole investigation did not help. But whose fault was that? It was the person who had the unauthorized system for the use of her emails. That was the original sin of this matter, and that was what, in the end, this was all about.
And it wasn't one day. It was cumulative. It was the years and years of lies that this woman told. It wasn't one day. She wouldn't have won on the 27th, and she didn't win that first Tuesday in November. Judge Jeanine Pirro, I like her in small doses, but this weekend she took Hillary Clinton to the cleaners, to the Woodhouse, as it were, talking about a variety of things, including whining about losing the election and how it wasn't her fault, and then fundraising and her new. Oh, by the way, she's got a new charity. I didn't even know this. Hillary Clinton is asking for donations for the resistance. All right, so there is a resistance now. Wasn't enough to, and this is the only way she's going to get the money. She can't peddle influence. So she's going to go after smaller donors. She's not going to get the money from Saudi Arabia. She's not going to get the money from Russia via Canada. It's not going to happen. So she's declaring a resistance now. Imagine if less than 5% of the money that the Clinton Foundation raised was used to help people that it was supposed to help. Imagine what their resistance charity will do. Bubkas, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She'd be our president if only the election were held on that day.
27.
Hillary, snap out of it. I'm tired of going through this with you. You're a two-time loser who lost because you were a lousy candidate. You didn't have a message. You lied every time you opened your mouth. You didn't know what states to campaign in. You put our national security at risk with your amateur email setup. You ran a foundation that was nothing more than an organized criminal enterprise parading as a charity. 4 men died under your watch as you lied about a video. And there was $1 billion missing from the State Department when you left. And I could go on, but I just don't have the time.
She's right. She's saying it unfiltered, by the way. And calling out what the Clinton Foundation was all about. And the Clinton Foundation folded within a week after the election because there was no influence to peddle.
I was waiting for the moment when one of the people asking the questions would have said, well, so exactly how are you going to create more jobs?
Did you lose your mind? You were asked that on September 26th. Take a listen.
Beginning with you, Secretary Clinton, why are you a better choice than your opponent to create the kinds of jobs that will put more money into the pockets of American workers?
See? So now you want to raise money to fund the resistance. What are you resisting? You're nothing more than a sore loser in a party that still can't figure out who's on first.
Yeah, and that's true about the Democrat Party as well. And with its new leader, Tom Perez, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. Here, Judge Jeanine is talking about Hillary and Bill and fundraising.
If you want to raise money, why not just bring back the Clinton Foundation? You raised $2 billion there.
You did.
But you shut it down because the money just wasn't coming in anymore.
I want to know where the money is. I want to know where that money is.
You're out of power. So why would anyone want to give you money? I have an idea, Hillary. Why don't you go back to your roots, fighting for women and children, as you allege you did? Truth? You put a pedophile against a young child, and your history with women was more about destroying them than building them up. Truth be told, you're good at raising money, though. Hillary, for a government employee, you seem to have a real affinity for raising cash.
You know, and that's another thing that this weekend I was discussing with some friends. Think about how in the last 20 years or so, the presidency and other higher elected offices in Washington, D.C. has become a way to become wealthier than you could possibly imagine. This is we are in a representative republic. We send people to Washington, D.C. to represent us, and they come back filthy rich, set for life. Barack Obama, 2 speeches, $400,000 apiece. That's amateur hour compared to Bill Clinton went from $250,000 to $750,000 a speech when Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State. I wonder why that is. Of course you know why that is. She was selling influence. Barack Obama, I don't know if he's got any influence to sell right now, but he's getting $400,000 a speech. Several Republican congresmen want his pension to be forfeited. It's $200,000 a year pension, I believe, for the rest of his life. They want him forfeited. And, we also got a $65 million book deal, he and Michelle. Oddly enough, I'm going to have to disagree with that. The president is promised a pension. That's what the president gets. We cannot change the rules with Barack Obama. But when did it happen? When did presidents leave the office and become the wealthiest of the wealthy? The Clintons became the wealthiest of the wealthy by selling influence, begging for money. $2 billion. They didn't produce anything. They didn't build anything. They didn't produce anything. $2 billion. She was giving 30-minute speeches and making $400,000 or $500,000 for them just because she was selling influence. She was selling the State Department. She did, and she did it quite successfully. Now she wants to fund the resistance. Whatever that means, right? Whatever the hell that means. The resistance. What are the Clintons going to do as far as the resistance? And what business is it of theirs to retard the progress or get in the way of the agenda of the President of the United States, who she got her ass kicked by?
When you're collecting hundreds of millions of dollars, let's say to rebuild Haiti. Utter devastation in Haiti. And you give less than 10% directly to people in need.
The Clintons, in a sense, hijack the government's initiative. The best thing they can do for the next week to 10 days is
This is, by the way, from Dinesh D'Souza's movie.
If it's $5 or $10, send cash, even if it's $1 or $2. Send it to this website. I will give the cash to the people immediately. And that website is...
The people of Haiti got nothing.
www.clintonfoundation.org/Haiti earthquake.
Please, if you can, contribute. $10 will be billed to your cell phone, and it's helping us get the food, the water, the medical supplies that we need.
Money and you together is a dangerous thing, and you have little to show for it, especially in Haiti.
Okay, there you go. So there's Judge Jeanine taking Hillary and Bill to the woodshed over the weekend. I'm going to go for now. Episode number 88 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. In the can, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure if you get a chance to, and if you're looking for a residential mower or a commercial mower that is American-made, that is built like you would not believe, consider either a Hustler mower made in Kansas, consider a Dixie Chopper made in Indiana. Both of them available at Grass Monsters KC. Grass Monsters KC in Raytown on Raytown Road, or you can just go to grassmonsterskc.com. Make sure to download the podcast on iTunes at The Rob Carson Show. Follow me on Facebook at Rob Carson Show. And if you'd like to email me personally, carsonontheradio@gmail.com. That is carsonontheradio@gmail.com. Have a blessed day, guys. Good to be back on the podcast. And we'll see you back here for episode number 89 real soon.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.